The great Matt Mosley. It does not get any better. The Pete Souza Show presented by Slovaceks. We are back, getting ready to talk Cowboys draft. Matt is actually getting ready to go down to the Star, where Jerry Jones will have his 11:30 pre-draft press availability. Of course, we are presented by Slovaceks. Dallas Cowboys insider Matt Mosley. How you doing, brother?
Well, I'm doing just fine, and I've missed being on with you. It was great to see you the other day over at one of our favorite watering holes restaurants there in Central Texas, and that is the Brazos Landing. But I'm just, getting amped up for this draft, and I just expect Jerry Jones to be very forthright and just kind of explain all his strategy and just come right out and let us know exactly what he intends to do this morning. So that'll happen about 11:30 a.m. Jerry, Steven, and then Will McClay, the brains behind some of these really good drafts. Will probably be out there, and Jerry will probably let him say about 2 words during that press conference. But that's going to happen here in about an hour.
So, okay. By the way, ESPN Central Texas is where you can hear Matt today on the air, and obviously that's a must listen now. 4 to 6 p.m. You got to listen to Mosley. And when I'm on with Mosley, honestly, Matt, we make sweet music together. People stop me in the streets at baseball games. They say, "I just heard you on Mosley. It was great." So I love it. All right, you mentioned it, talking about Will McClay. As far as your reporting is concerned, and in your great experience around this team, who is going to be making the decisions in the Cowboys draft room? That's the first question I have for you.
Well, I mean, it is a collaboration, believe it or not. It is not Jerry just throwing darts, which I think if there weren't some checks and balances in place, that might happen from time to time. That's how Johnny Manziel would have ended up with the Cowboys, because that's what Jerry wanted to do famously. Instead, the Cowboys chose a man that will likely be a first ballot Hall of Famer in Zach Martin. So Jerry does still have ultimate say, but Will McClay is the keeper of the board, and he puts the board together. And in most cases, now the Cowboys sometimes will see a receiver or somebody they want to come up for, or maybe they feel like, hey, we can get our guy and still trade down and get an extra second rounder or something like that. That when that kind of stuff is happening, Steven really is I would say, maybe the trade expert. They're looking at the chart, looking at all of that. But Will McClay certainly has the most say when it comes to conviction and understanding of how the board was put together, and kind of who they're zeroing in on, and kind of what you're doing in these final days is some role playing, thinking through some scenarios of what could happen, and then also trying to prepare for possible people, especially the Cowboys, who don't always draft this high. They're looking to see who could possibly start falling, and what would they do if that happened. For instance, if a Sheduer Sanders was available at number 12, and that would be, I think the Cowboys' tendency right there would be to try to trade down and let a team that's trying to get up there to get Sheduer, see if they could trade down and get some extra picks, because let me tell you, nothing alienates a starting quarterback like a team taking a first or second round quarterback, rookie. That real, I've seen it happen. I've watched it happen. I saw Donovan McNabb completely change the way he interacted with the media and everybody in Philly when they took Kevin Cobb from the University of Houston in the second round. So anyway, you have to kind of watch that as a team, because I promise you, if the Cowboys take a second or third round quarterback, no matter how much he makes, which is $60 million a year, it will really bother Dak Prescott. So anyway, Pete, sorry, I just thought I would go off on one of my little tangents.
That's great stuff. So do you think, and Scotty, hit Matt with your overarching question. Scotty's obsessed with this.
Matt, I have a theory, and you might have just debunked it. I think if Sheduer Sanders is there at 12, Jerry cannot resist. And I think it's a little different than the Johnny Manziel situation because of the family feeling. he has with Dion. I understand what you're saying about that, creating maybe some tension with Dak. Dak's been injury prone. Like, who knows if he can play 16, 17 games? Is there any shot Jerry goes rogue and takes Sheduer at 12?
Well, I don't think, first of all, the quarterback is in such demand, the quarterback position, that I would be shocked if he ended up there. In fact, I think he's going to go number 9. I do think Jerry's going to be asking or thinking about like what it would take to come up to 9 or come up to 8. The pick before 9. I mean, it'll at least cross his mind. I don't think he'll do it, and it's generally Steven talking him out of things like that. And the finances just don't add up. Like it not that Sheduer would cost that much. It's just that you're just paying this enormous money to a quarterback. And so in a lot of ways you'd be duplicating your efforts. And I totally get what you're saying, Scotty, that he's an injury prone. I mean, I wouldn't call him Anthony Davis, but he's at least on some level. It seems like it's become sort of an annual thing. So, but I would give it, let's see. Let me give you the percentage chances that Sheduer Sanders is a Dallas Cowboy at the end of Thursday's draft or the end of the whole draft. Let's say he slips into the second round, which I don't think will ever happen. I think it's a 0.5% chance.
Dang. All right.
Yes, that Sheduer Sanders is a Dallas Cowboy.
Mosley, you're the man. All right. I heard this morning Peter Schrager talking about the possibility, or he reported this, right? And you probably have already heard it, but that teams are calling the Giants and the Browns, or I should say in reverse order, the Browns at 2 and the Giants at 3, to try and trade up, and they're listening. They're not slamming the phone down. And it's reported that they're trying to get up there to get either Abdul Carter or Ashton Genty. Now, the Cowboys are in the market for a running back, right? More than likely in the second round, because a lot of teams, and I want to ask you about Tedder and McMillan after this, but a lot of analysts, we had McShay on here last week, he's got McMillan going to the Cowboys at 12, but nobody really loves him. But back to the question I just touched on with Schrager, is it possible that the Cowboys, who could be in the market for a running back, could trade up to maybe 3 to get Ashton Genty? Is that something through your reporting or experience that could be on the table?
Well, as much as the running back and the running game, things kind of cycle through, and it's kind of like the running back becomes less value and less important. And here we are. A lot of these mock drafts have Genty going number 6. I believe that would be the Raiders taking him at number 6. I do not think the Cowboys would come up the board. And what it would take is, golly, to get up there, to move from 12. I don't have my draft chart or my trade chart in front of me, but let me tap into my years of and maybe even consult Dr. Draft. I don't know if y'all have ever met my alter ego. Dr. Brackett shows up around March Madness, and he really provides some excellent information. But Dr. Draft, for about 25 years, gets 3 locks that he makes. And I'll make share this with you guys as we get closer to the draft. But Dr. Draft, and one of those 3 locks for about a 20-year streak, he did nail the Cowboys pick. Now, it took him, Dr. Draft got 3 shots at it. Okay. He gave 3 names, so it made it a little easier, but yeah, but I think that's, I give that a 1% chance of happening. Okay. The Cowboys moving all the way up there to get, now I don't see somebody taking Genty at 2 or 3. I mean, that would shock me. The Carter thing makes more sense. If you decide that this is the next Micah, maybe he kind of has that Superman, and maybe even because of Micah being from Penn State, maybe there's some kind of thought, maybe this is the next guy, the next huge edge. If you think this edge is like heads and shoulders above these other edge rushers in the first round, then maybe you take a look at that. But I think this is just, they're using, listen, it happens to all of us. at this point, they're probably using Schrager. They use Schefter and others to kind of like just make a play and see what possible deals they could elicit. But I promise I don't see it. I don't see either one of those teams moving out of those picks. But I think the first trades happen right around 7 or 8.
All right, Dr. Draft. I mentioned Tedder and McMillan. By the way, from covering him in the Big 12 and calling games, he likes Tedera. He doesn't like Tet, just so you know, when you get him at the press conference. But I don't love him at 12. You know, when he was with Jed Fish, right, he was kind of in a more confined, intense situation, and Fish kind of had his foot on his neck in a positive way, right? He was motivating him, and he was great. Last year with Brett Brennan, it wasn't as smooth, and apparently practice habits dipped, and you know he's so sexy on paper, right? And when you watch him on film, but he might not be like the guy that can just slide in there, plug and play. Are you convinced he is the guy, Dr. Draft, that they'll go with at 12?
You know, generally, if I see too many people slate somebody, I tend to go another direction. And while, you know, I don't think it would be the craziest pick in the world, and I liked there, you know, not this past season, but the season before, I kind of like that guy, and then I like that Adunze guy that ended up in Chicago. I love that Washington wide receiver. I was into both of those guys, and I think that the pick. It's interesting. There's a bunch of people in Jerry's ear right now pushing Matthew Golden for that number 12 pick, and it's like people inside and outside the building, including one former Hall of Fame wide receiver who came on. By the way, I've added another show now to my repertoire. I don't even know if I've told you about it. And so he came on this other thing I'm doing. I'm syndicated now.
Yeah, what's going on? Give us an update.
Kind of ridiculous. No. Oh, I will give you an update, but it's I don't want it to interfere with this, you know, what I'm sharing with you here. Okay. Drew Pearson, who was on that new program, was going crazy over Golden. And it's not like Drew at age 74 is breaking down a bunch of film, which tells me somebody is in Drew's ear. Like, they got to get this guy. They got to get this guy. Now, is that somebody from the Cowboys organization? We never know.
Yeah.
But after I heard it from Drew, I started hearing it more and more from sort of inside the organization. And they do love these sort of Dallas Day people that come in, people that have Texas ties.
Yeah, he went to Texas from Houston, right? Played for the Cougars and then transferred wide receiver. That's a cool pick.
They do like all that.
Yeah. I like it, to be honest with you. I don't know why, but maybe that's why I'd be a terrible GM.
No, I think you'd be fine. You'd be entertaining. You'd be so much better than, I'll tell you who I think you would be better than as a GM. I could honestly see you being better than Nico Harrison.
Dude, for the press conferences, for sure.
Yeah, I like Nico's kind of soft voice, and then when he lets everybody know that he didn't realize that Luka had such a strong connection with. I think that's always a good thing. Everybody wants to hate on him, and I think that's appropriate. But I did find some moments in yesterday's news conference where I was like, you know, the guy's trying to kind of be honest.
Dude, like I did too. Man, I opened up the show today with that. He was
really
sort of an empathetic individual by nature.
I know.
And as much as I want to sports hate on him, I'm like, gosh, the guy does. I was Googling, like, if he had a wife. I was, like, concerned for her afterwards, you know? But, okay, one more football question, and then I want to get to the syndication play.
I don't know. I'm a little worried about you Googling Nico Harrison's wife pics or whatever. I mean, Scotty, let's keep an eye on that.
To be honest, I wanted to see, like, what we were working with, and she totally passed, the smell test. Like, she works for ABC News. They've been in love for a long time. Like, she's not like, as I put it, he's not coming home to one of the Real Housewives who's ripping him a new one over the fact that he's painting her in a bad light around Highland Park. You know?
I think he deserves it. I think the wife needs to go off on him. I think he's earned it.
All right, football question. Football question before the syndication. Brian Schottenheimer, I haven't asked you about this, right? How does his new approach schematically, his presence as the new head coach, affect this year's draft?
Well, that's good. I mean, because I'm going to be kind of paying close attention, and there'll be some things that emerge. Of course, if they take a offensive lineman or a wide receiver early or in those first 2 rounds, it's going to be, oh, look, it's the offensive guy. And again, that's fine. I mean, he's been an offensive coordinator, and they're coming from Mike McCarthy. But I think why the people in the building are very excited about a change and a different way of doing business than McCarthy is that McCarthy had a way of sort of blowing off the scouts. I mean, whether he meant it or not, that's kind of how they felt. And I sense that Will McClay and others in the building felt like the minute this change was made, that their voices were elevated and that they could really dig in and do their jobs. And so this word collaborative, most of these words I hate, synergy and all the goofiness we talk about. I think that Schottenheimer really believes in, valuing what all these scouts and all the work that's been done. And he doesn't, I think McCarthy used to kind of come in and just literally look at a couple of cut-ups. I mean, kind of like what I would do. Just look at some highlights and just go tell Aranda who he should take. Like, hey, we got this kid from Lake Highlands. Here's like 3 highlights, okay? Dismiss what all your people are saying. But I think it's going to be a little different. But I think you're going to see, and they've had a lot of good picks. It's not like a lot of the problems with the Cowboys are not really the draft. It's not like they're not drafting good players. But I think the communication and the respect between the GM, the scouts, and everybody, and Schottenheimer, I think that will be elevated to a certain extent.
What's the first question or the number one question you want to ask those guys today?
These are not very. I mean, we'll do in fact, Werder and I are going to do a Doomsday this afternoon.
Yes.
These are always a Doomsday podcast. These are always not. They're not very satisfying because Jerry will spend part of the time saying he might move down. He could see himself moving up. All the options will be given. I just think, one of the first questions on my mind would be, where do you, as you get closer, where do you feel like are your biggest needs? And then it's always interesting to try to get Steven. Steven's a little bit more direct, and you can kind of try to get him to talking about where is the strength of this draft. And he'll have some opinions there that are maybe a little different than what you're hearing out there. Because we'll read all these things. Oh, this, the edge or the defensive linemen this year are better than ever, or they're deep at wide receiver, whatever the case may be. And generally, he will reveal a little bit of what they're thinking if you can kind of get him going in that direction. Like, what is the strength of this draft? What are the 2 or 3 strengths of this draft? And he'll be a little bit open about where he thinks this draft is the deepest. So you got to kind of stick with that. If you now occasionally you can get something interesting if you use this opportunity to go, Jerry, what do you what in your evaluation of Sheduer Sanders? He'll either say we're not looking, he'll be long gone, so we haven't taken a long look at him, or he'll go off on his relationship with the Sanders family and reveal that he's taken a long look at him, and to which Scotty would love that, and it would fan the flames of this of what Scotty's trying to do out there, which is get a bunch of clicks.
Dude, Dude, I'll tell you, I am so pumped that you're going to talk to Werder today and do a doomsday. Werder was a part of my childhood, right? Watching NFL Countdown, and so he walked into Media, whatever it is, this Mexican place in Flower Mound on my birthday. Like just like me, early bird special. It was like 5:15. Him and his lovely wife, I would assume, and I choked. I wanted to say hi to him, but I've also heard he has a bit of an edge, and so I choked. I kind of froze. I didn't say anything.
He would have been fine. He does have an edge, but he uses that mostly on me. Like people that especially with you being in the business and all of that, he would have been charming. He has a charming side. He is. I would say the less charming side comes out on producers, his bosses. I mean, if you knew Ed Werder like I do, it is amazing that he went 25 years or whatever he did at ESPN. It is remarkable because I've got a little bit of. I don't do totally well with authority. I don't know if that shocks you or not, but Ed does extremely poorly with authority. Like he makes me look like an easy person to work with.
All right, one last thing. Tell me about this syndication. What's going on?
Okay. So let's call this Arklatex. There's a guy who used to be a big fan of my show with Randy Galloway that I did a decade in the Dallas area.
Sure.
On 103.3 FM ESPN. And Scotty might remember that show from back in the day.
Dude, I was talking about it on Sunday with Christy's all her cousins and stuff. You should listen to it.
Yeah, Matt, I think I told you this when we met. When I lived in Fort Worth, that was my go-to show every day, man. So I loved that show.
Yeah.
Well, I appreciate it because some people like to come up to me. I still never understand when they say, Matt, like even friends of mine, I don't listen to you. I listen to the ticket. I'm like, do you really have to say that to me? Like, why does that need to be your greeting? But no, I appreciate it. We still hear from people that love that show. And Randy retired on me, so then I had to carry on about 3 more years without him. But I brought on a guy with bad asthma, good guy, but bad asthma and a heavy breather in Kalishaw. But we made it another 3 years. This syndication thing is interesting because this guy who was a fan of that show has now, in a time when I would not advise people to buy radio stations. I would say probably sell them if you can. He has acquired 35 radio stations across almost all of Arkansas, like Little Rock, Arkadelphia, Hot Springs, whatever other thing you could name, Mountain Home, right all the way across Arkansas. Then Bossier, Shreveport, Bossier, up to Ruston, into Baton Rouge in Louisiana. So again, and then he's just acquired a bunch in West Texas, but then also Texarkana, and then just a wide swath in Northeast Texas. So anyway, there's all these Fox and ESPN affiliates. And so what I'm doing is, this is very strange. I recorded earlier in the day, try to do it as late as possible in case there's breaking news. So I'm on at 5:00 in all these states, this tri-state area. He's trying to get into Oklahoma now, but he's got 35 stations. So I'm doing that I record it, and then I'm on at 5. So I'm basically, there's 2 Mosley shows running at the same time. So there's the one in Central Texas from 4 to 6. Yes. But I mean, it's interesting that, okay, I'm sorry, Scout has decided to act up here.
Let's go.
Scout the Dachshund, the long-haired Dachshund. He was not getting enough attention. I'm on now in every area across a 3-state area except the one I live in. Okay, I've worn out my welcome where I live, which is Dallas, but I'm on everywhere else. So it's funny, but. Anyway, you just, I've kind of found a guy that's way into radio, and so it's kind of cool.
It's extremely cool, and it's really cool talking to you this time of year. You mentioned Werder, you mentioned yourself. There are a lot of people out there on a lot of talk shows, blowing a lot of smoke, but it's really nice to be able to talk to you. Yeah, Scotty raised his hand. But it's really nice to to talk to someone like you who's dialed in and does the reporting and actually knows what the heck is going on. So thanks for spending time with us. I know you're busy, so we'll let you get to the Star. And Matt Mosley today, it's a must listen, I would say, 4 to 6 on ESPN Central Texas. He's going to have a lot of fresh stuff coming out of the draft conversation. Matt, when I post these segments with you, we get tons of views. So I'm excited.
Good.
Thank you very much.
Good. I mean, I think it's Mosley kind of in the lead, McShay just trailing me just by a hair. All right, that's the way I choose to view this. But always fun to be on with you and Scotty, two great guys and two good friends of mine. So I appreciate you guys, and I'll be in touch. Okay.
All right, Mose, take it easy, brother.
Okay. Tell Corey I said hi. Good night.
You got it. Later. Oh, he's a legend, dude. Matt Mosley. He's a freaking legend.